All right, here we go. Another week in the NFL, week three. Week three, last official weekend of summer. Fall officially begins on Monday. And obviously, lots of stories to be told this week of some surprising 2-0 teams and even more surprising 0-2 teams. And a lot of them are going at each other this weekend. So we're gonna thin the field even further after this weekend. So, like I said, Matt's back with us after his little procedure on Wednesday, and you're good now, right? Everything's good with that, right?
Not 100%, but yeah, good enough for now.
All right. Well, you sound like you can do this, so probably sound better
Yeah,
than you normally do. But like I said, we will go no further ado. We'll go into these matchups. We got some interesting ones, but like I said, we'll start with let's see what we got in unanimous. We got one unanimous, and that is Green Bay over the Cleveland Browns.
but yeah, that's an easy one for Green Bay.
All right, so now we're going to do our favorite no the go no huddle go quick whatever we call it.
Yeah, there's a
Shotgun
bunch of
no.
games that you could do for this one week, man. With that, there's some pretty bad. There's a few real bad games, so you know,
Yeah, but we'll go through them quickly. We gotta go through them quickly. So
yeah,
we will start with obviously we will start with the we're going to start with the Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. Like I said, the Falcons coming off a big defensive win in Minnesota. Now they're playing Carolina. Go ahead to that one.
the Falcons Panthers. I think most people are gonna have that pretty simple. Falcons winning. I mean, we've seen the Panthers have put it nicely. They've struggled so far this year, and Bryce Young's looking like the old Bryce Young. So yeah, Atlanta final score 31-13.
Well, after a dominant defense and yeah, Carolina hasn't looked good the first few weeks. I'm gonna go with Atlanta two, basically 30-20 there. The Jets will not have your boy Justin Fields. He had a concussion last week, so he's out. And Tyrod Taylor is in now. I mean, Tyrod is a career backup, but he's a decent backup, one of the better backups in the NFL. But he's playing in Tampa Bay, looking to a 3-0 start with the Eagles coming there next Sunday. So go to that one.
When was it? Sorry.
Jets at Tampa, your
Oh
old home, your old home.
yeah. Well, I mean, let's. I mean, the Jets. Justin Fields sucks to begin with, and he's out, so they don't even have the him. Um, they're done. They're done. I'm not even gonna get into it. Bucks with a final score of I think it's gonna be a blowout, 37-10.
Yeah, I don't have any hope for the Jets. I mean, obviously, it's amazing how much things have changed in a couple weeks. They play a great game against the Steelers, and then they play the Bills and then to get back into reality of who they really are. And Tampa's a contending team, so yeah, I don't like the Jets either. Give me Tampa final score 33-10. We have Seattle hosting the Saints, and why it's not a unanimous pick because the Saints actually have been competitive in their two games. That's pretty much because of the lack of the opponents. But Seattle might be their toughest opponent yet for New Orleans. So go to this matchup.
Yeah, Seattle will be tough. In Seattle, tough defense. Offense is at least mediocre. I mean, yeah, the Saints are trash. To be real, they've played somewhat tough, but they're trash. So yeah, this will be a easy win for Seattle. I'll say 27-12.
Yeah, I don't like the Saints' chances. I mean, obviously, Seattle, I mean, they're off to an interesting start. They should have beaten the 49ers in week 1. Absolutely dominated the Steelers in the second half of their matchup. Seattle might be a fringe playoff contender. Well, they're going to be a playoff contender. Barely missed winning the NFC West last year, but they need to get their act together. It's not easy. I mean, the NFC West is going to be a tougher division than we expected. Obviously, we'll see to that. But obviously, give me Seattle and the final score 34-17.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, according to what I was given, that is the end of the no huddle. I know there's a lot of bad games, but we're looking at fringe unanimous compared to what we expect, or just bad games in general. But there's some intriguing matchups in a lot of these other games that will go as quickly as we want to, but we'll see what we can bring up. But obviously, Matt, I know you like to take shots at Johnny B, but we can't underestimate Johnny B knows football a little bit. We shouldn't question his IQ. He's 2-0 right now. His Colts are 2-0, and they're a surprising win against the Broncos last week. And right now, he's undefeated in your pick'ems. So, not saying that Johnny B is the smartest tool is the brightest tool in the chess, but he's a smart enough guy that knows his football and why he was given the tools he was given this season. And his Colts are 2-0, placing a Titans team that's not very good. So go to this one. Do you see an upset, or are you just gonna give him his due? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, yeah, the Colts are off to a solid start. They're 2-0. I mean, Miami was no matchup for them or for really any team. But the Broncos win. They didn't look great to start, but they came back in the second half, pulled it out. So they got that. This one's not going to be very difficult because Tennessee is not a good team. So they're going to be 3-0. And yeah, like you said, Johnny B is undefeated after 2 weeks in the pick'ems, but he was undefeated after 2 weeks last year, and he completely fell apart the last 8 weeks, now maybe 7 weeks of the season. So we'll see if it's just more beginner's luck to start off the year, or if he can actually keep it going. But yeah, the Colts will win this one. I don't know, 26-16.
Well, like I say, I know you and John Smith have been getting on him about the Colts. I've kind of kept my distance because we have to figure things out. I know September is kind of a weird month because we don't get preseason games, so a lot of these guys are a little rusty in-game action. But the Colts, yeah, I give them a lot of credit because, like I said, I mean that was a very impressive comeback win on Sunday against Denver, and I questioned Denver. But obviously, they're playing Tennessee, and Tennessee right now shows that they're going to be the worst team in their division. And like I said, Cam Ward, he just doesn't have a lot of talent to really get to. So, they don't run the ball very much, and their defense isn't that great. So, I'm gonna go with the Colts, and Johnny B's gonna brag even more about his team, even thinking that they could be going somewhere further than they think they're going to be. I'll be honest with you. I agree with you. They're like an 8-9 win team tops, but we'll see. Give me the Colts and the final score 34-17.
Okay.
Here's a name you haven't heard in about 4 or 5 years, or pretty much since he was a Colt. The last time he made significant starts, Carson Wentz is back. Yes, that Carson Wentz. The Carson Wentz that still to this day owns two Eagles quarterback records. He is now in Minnesota. And J.J. McCarthy, after a poor performance on Sunday Night Football, is now injured with a leg injury and is out for a couple of weeks. So Wentz gets the start. For the Bengals, they also lost their quarterback, but for much longer. Why J.J. McCarthy is expected to miss 3 games, Joe Burrow is expected to miss 3 months with a fractured toe. So Jake Browning, who started most of the games he was out in 2023 in the second half, is given the boost again. Interesting matchup here. 2 backup quarterbacks that did not need to be in the spotlight are in the spotlight, and they have to keep their teams afloat, both with playoff implications. This game could go a long way to who could be sitting in potentially a wild card chair come January. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I mean, before last week, I should say, this game was looking like it would be an interesting game. But obviously with the 2 quarterbacks being injured, we're looking at, like you said, Carson Wentz versus Jake Browning, and that's not interesting, man. uh, but I don't know. I don't know. Carson Wentz, we'll see what he can do. Um, he only played like what, 1 game last year, right?
Yeah, the last game.
Yeah. Yeah, from what I remember, he wasn't bad or anything. He was okay. Um, I mean,
Uh,
Browning's not a good quarterback, man. But at least Wentz is in a system with that, he'll have protection. He's an okay line, a good offensive head coach, Justin Jefferson, who, he really should have been throwing the ball to way back when he was an Eagle, you know. But that's not how it worked out with the way we drafted. We drafted Jalen Reagor. But now he's got him. We'll see what happens. But I look at that Bengals defense. I look at Kevin O'Connell calling plays. He'll protect Wentz. Wentz isn't gonna have to be the hero. And Jake Browning, he's not good, man. The Vikings actually have a pretty solid defense too. So I'm gonna go with Minnesota here. Final score 27-20. I don't know.
Carson Wentz has this. If he will he will make the start upon any injury or setback. He will have started 6 different teams in 6 straight seasons, which has never happened in NFL history. And we're not talking about the modern day or 1950 with the numbers, all the way to 1920, the first season. So let's give a lot of credit to that. But it also talks about Mr. Confidence. Like I said, Carson Wentz was a great Eagles quarterback for like 5 minutes. Then he had the bad knee injury. The Eagles won the Super Bowl that year. He came back, set a few records, but once Jalen Hurts was drafted in that same draft as Jalen Reagor, that mess up. At least when you look at how he messed up on that pick, but he damn sure didn't mess up on this next pick. But obviously that second pick was the end of Carson Wentz. And he's been a journeyman quarterback ever since. He has not stayed with the same team after his Eagles run. He has started the last two games of the season for the Rams in 2023 and the Chiefs of all teams last year. But those were both in games that they were already settled in the postseason situation. That was meaningless games for them. But this isn't the first time since 2022 he's starting a meaningful game. And it'll be interesting to see. A lot of people say he's done well. He had a decent practice and he still looks sharp. And obviously, Kevin O'Connell quarterback system works. If you want to put in the system, that's the system you want to be in. But that doesn't mean Carson's going to have any. I don't know if I have any confidence in him. At least with Jake Browning with the Bengals, we know about him because he's been Joe Burrow's backup for the last 4 seasons, and in 2023 he started I think the last 7 games of the year and still kept them in the playoff mix, and he actually finished with a winning record. So like I said, this is going to be a back and forth game. And like I said, I mean, yeah, Carson has more experience than the guy he's replacing or the guy he's filling in for, but I can't say that he's going to show me anything that he hasn't shown in years because that's all he is now is a backup quarterback. Any chance of him being a starter seems unlikely unless he turns back to his Eagles days because that's the notes, or in Johnny B's case, the Colts in 2021. So I'm going to go with the Bengals here. I just think it's going to be it might be a good game. It could be an entertaining game, but I just don't know about the Vikings right now. Carson has to show me what he's capable of, and right now I don't know. So give me the Bengals and the final score 27-24.
Okay.
All right. Now obviously I'm not going to mention Johnny B after this anymore, I promise. Well, I don't promise, but I'm not going to mention his name anymore. Obviously, while his Colts are 2-0, his main competition, the only way he's going to make the playoffs this year, the Texans are 0-2 and have lost two tough games. CJ Stroud has not looked great in the first 2 weeks, but that's not on him. That's not his fault. Obviously, they are in Jacksonville this weekend in an AFC South clash. Like I said, Jacksonville's kind of off to a surprisingly good start. Nearly won in Cincy last week, but they blew it. But where do they sit? Are they capable? Texas got to get off the schneid. Now the good news is in the last decade, only one team started 0-3 and still came back and won their division. The Houston Texans in 2018. So even if they don't win this game, it's not the end of the world. But if the Colts keep winning, it's going to be tough. So go to this matchup.
Yeah, well, um, when we talked last week, I had mentioned that, or I said, the way Houston built this offense, it's just a bad build. And I mean, I'm just gonna keep saying it, man, because CJ Stroud is set up to fail, no matter how you look at it. He's got a horrible offensive line and no running game, and he's got a bunch of receivers, but you know, when you don't have anything, when you can't even, when you have such a bad line and you got no way to take the pressure off the quarterback, um, there's nothing. There's only so much you can do. I shouldn't say there's nothing, but there's only so much you can do. Um, and he's a good quarterback. I wouldn't say he's like a great quarterback either. It's not like he's Tom Brady back there slinging the ball around and you know might be able to help cover up the offensive line a little bit. You know. Um, And Jacksonville, yeah, they've been off a disappointing start for sure. Trevor Lawrence, he's got a new coach, supposedly a great offensive mind as a head coach, and he still has looked pretty bad. So, maybe it's time to just for people to start admitting that Trevor Lawrence is a bust. You know, um, but for this one, it's going to be close because that Houston defense is tough. So I do expect Lawrence to struggle too, but I don't I don't see that Houston offense being able to do much again. So I think I think we at least Trevor Lawrence and that offense at least does enough to get a victory here. So I'm going to say 19-16 final score, Jacksonville. And it's in Florida
Well,
too, so it's probably going to be hot and humid out there.
this is game. This is this is Jacksonville, not Miami. But yeah, I understand because it is you lived there for 10 years, so I know. But
Trust me,
anyway,
it's still hot there, man. And even though it's not Miami, it's still hot.
yeah. But obviously, like I said, I mean, Houston hasn't had easy to start. They've been in two defensive battles and they've lost both of them. Two off, low scoring defensive battles. But I can't give up on this team. The defense is their strength. And they're going to have to use that as their strength if they're going to have a chance to get back into this division race with Indianapolis. When you look at Jacksonville, I mean, it is not good when you look at Trevor Lawrence. But then again, Matt, you know as much as I do, the 2021 quarterback class is a joke. Everybody in that class has no. This is the best you have. This is the best you have is Trevor Lawrence. That's the best you have out of that group. So that's all you need to know. That's the best you got out of that group. So, like I said, I mean, it is what it is. You know, he's on his third coach, which is never good in 5 seasons. It's never good. So, but obviously, I can't sit here and say that he's been a bust. They did make the playoffs in one of his years. That's more to say for other high looked at quarterbacks. But when you look at Jacksonville, I mean, they're off to an okay start, but like I said, I don't like their coach. Their coach is a smug. I don't think he's that good a coach. He might have made things a little better, but I still miss Dougie P. I think Dougie P was his best coach. It's just their front office is a joke, and their owner is even bigger joke. But when you obviously look at Houston, I still have faith in CJ Stroud to get it together. Like I said, he's still taking too many sacks, which is not good, and they gotta get it together. So, like I said, once he can cut those sacks off, he'll be fine. But as of now, it doesn't look that great. So, as of now, I'm going to go with Houston, though. But I think Houston will finally win one of these slugfests. I'm going to go with them and the final score, get off the snide, 20-17.
Okay.
All right. Washington against the Raiders would have been in our quick segment, but Jaden Daniels will, for the first time as a pro, will miss this week and might miss a few weeks with a knee injury. Marcus Mariota, your cousin, will be making his Washington debut. I think he might have appeared in a game or two last year, but he gets to start this week against his old team, the Raiders. So that should be an interesting matchup. Obviously, Washington coming off a tough loss in Green Bay on Thursday had a long week, 10 days off, but an interesting matchup. Washington obviously still trying to get in the hunt here in the NFC East. If the Eagles slip, we don't know. We don't expect it to, but you never know. Critical matchup. Can Mariota turn back the clock if he has a clock? Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I would say you could probably put this in the quick pick anyway, because, with Jaden Daniels out, and your boy Mariota playing quarterback, this isn't exactly a interesting game anymore. But yeah, dude, Washington's gonna struggle. They're not a very good team to begin with. Let's be real. They're okay. They're just an okay team with a really talented young quarterback. Take that quarterback out of the equation, and they're a bad team. Put Marcus Mariota as their quarterback in, and they're a really bad team. The Raiders aren't great, but they're not bad. They're a mediocre team in this league. Okay, I mean, Geno Smith is at least competent. I wouldn't say they have some great offense or some great defense, really, but they're good enough to go in and get a win against a average or below average team like we're going to see with Washington this week. So I think the Raiders come out. This is actually, I almost forgot to say it, this one is my lock of the week, actually, because the Raiders are getting 3 points in this one. I think they win this one outright. So I'll take the 3 points all day. So yeah, I'm going with the Raiders here. I say Marcus Mariota and that offense struggles to do anything, and Washington's defense isn't very good anyway. So, nice easy victory for Las Vegas. Final score, it's gonna be, I'm gonna say, um, I'm gonna say 26-10.
Wow, you have no confidence in Washington. This
No,
was
I
the
don't.
NFC champ. This was the NFC Championship opponent for the Eagles in
Well,
January.
like I said before the season started, they got a lot of luck to get the wins at the amount of wins they got last year. They needed a lot of things to bounce their way, and usually when that happens, the next year that team comes back down to earth. You know.
Well, like I said, I mean, Washington, like you said, like you mentioned, not today, but in our preview, they are the oldest roster in the league,
Yep.
and and why that has worked in the past in years past, like George Allen. There's no more George Allens, and like I said, unfortunately, Jaden Daniels is a talented young quarterback, and I think the only way that old team with a young quarterback worked is if he's out there, but he is not going to be out there this weekend. Like I said, the Raiders, they are what they are. I mean, they're a so-so team. They are what they are with Gino and their coach. And like I say, Ashton Gentry hasn't yet impressed anybody. I mean, you're not impressed with him so far. So, like I said,
I
this
like
could be
him, but
another.
I just don't like the team that he's on. Really, I don't think he's. I think it was a bad pick for them to be taking a running back that early.
Well, that's what they wanted to do. you
Yeah.
know, remember Raiders are a legendary team. Look at the last 20 years. Anyway, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here with these two teams. I mean, but I can't really sit there and say Washington doesn't have a chance. I think they do have a chance. Do I think they win this game? I don't know. I mean, like I said, one of the big regrets that Washington has is they let Ryan Robinson go. And then they lost Austin Eckler last week to an Achilles injury. So now they don't really run the ball very well. They don't run the ball. So yeah, this is gonna be tough. I mean, obviously you have Debo, but Debo needs help. He can't, he he can't think that he could just take. This is a different offense than what he had to deal with in San Francisco for many years. So I really look at it like this. I mean, at the end of the day, it's gonna be kind of a nip and tuck game, but I'm gonna go with the Commanders here. I think that being at home, I think somebody on that defense will get it there. Gino might have a stronger game than Mariota, obviously, being that he's a starter. But I'm going to go with Washington here. I think Washington finds a way to sneak it out here. So give me the Commanders and the final score 17-13.
Okay. Okay.
All right, we're gonna go to the Sunday night game next. Uh, this should be very interesting. This Sunday night matchup. Like I said, the Chiefs for the first time in the Patrick Mahomes era is in a losing streak. They've lost their last three overall, going back to the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs' only second 0-2 start under Andy Reid since 2013. But obviously, it is uncharted territory for this team. They are normally not in this position, but they are going into this weekend. The Giants, okay, they're 0-2. What else is new? But it's not like they're coming off of a blowout loss or anything that we're used to seeing them. They went to the Cowboys and played probably their best game against Dallas in a very, very long time. Russell Wilson had his best passing game of his career, and they took them to extra longer than 60 minutes, almost almost tied the Cowboys. But their all-pro kicker Aubrey with the 60-yard field goal, game over. So the Giants, their home opener Sunday night, are they going to, playing a vulnerable Chiefs team? Do they send the Chiefs to an 0-3 hole? Or do the Chiefs get their act together? I think I know where you're going to go with this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. So yeah, the Chiefs aren't starting off 0-3. Let's be honest. It's a matter of how well will or how tough will the Giants even play them. Um, and I sent you guys a couple little headlines earlier. Um, just things going around the internet. They're saying that Brian Dable could be fired as early as this week after this game, depending on what happens. You know, I still don't understand that. I don't understand why that you would, if you're at the point where you're ready to fire a guy at the coach, but only if he gets like blown out this week. It's like just fire him. You're not keeping him. You're not keeping him. Why bother? Time to move on. So, but yeah, that was one thing I saw. The other one I saw was Miami already played their game for the week, so they're already 0-3. But they're saying that Mike McDaniel could be fired as early as after week 4, depending on what happens. And John and myself both made predictions on who the first coach to be fired would be. And my pick was Brian Dable. His pick was Mike McDaniel. So one of us seems like one of us is going to be right because that's how it's looking right now. That one of those two is going. And if McDaniel's not on the chopping block this week, if the Chiefs blow out the Giants, it could be it for Dable. Um, and I think that's going to happen, man. Well, at least I think the Chiefs are going to blow them out. I don't know if Mara's going to actually pull the trigger yet, but um, I think the Chiefs will blow them out. They haven't obviously played well, sitting at 0-2. They do it that their defense has been good, but that offense hasn't done much. But I think this week that offense is going to play well. We saw uh, Dak and that Cowboys offense that looked horrible in week 1 come out last week against that Giants defense and torch them. Um, the Chiefs will torch them. All right. So I'm going to say KC final score. It's 38-17.
Well, you and I probably didn't see the same game. I mean, neither defense played well in that Giant Cowboys game. I mean,
Well, I didn't say that the Cowboys defense played well. I just said the Giants defense. That's who we're talking about right now is the Giants. So their defense was horrible.
they did. Yeah, of course they didn't play good at all. I mean, but like I said, it is interesting to think about. I mean, you're going to wait now to fire Dable. I mean, obviously that I mean there are no morale victories in sports, at least in the pro level. But a lot of people believe that after what they did hanging with Dallas, normally Dallas destroys them, but that wasn't the case on Sunday. I mean, yeah, this is a tough deal for the Giants, but they know they have a very rough schedule. They have the toughest schedule in the league, so they know that going against the Chiefs, a mad Chiefs team, a, a desperate Chiefs team, and they're going to be even more desperate. So, I mean, it's not looking good for the Giants. Obviously, the rumors about Russell Wilson's job was a big deal last week going into the Cowboys game, but he threw for over 450 yards and that looked like the Russell Wilson back in Seattle days. So he may have saved himself at least another couple more games. But I know that if they do fire Dable, that's going to lead to a lot of changes within the organization and potentially at the quarterback position. So this could be the end of an era if you're right. Obviously, 10 points for you is riding on this one.
Yeah, we'll
but
see.
it but all seriousness, like I said, this is gonna be a tough one for the Giants. Obviously them on Sunday night football at home has been disastrous. It has not been good. So a couple years ago, ironically against the Cowboys, they got crushed 40-0. So in this matchup, I expect the Chiefs to show up. I'm not going to say the Giants get blown out, but I don't think they win this game at all. So give me the Chiefs and the final score 32-18.
Okay.
All right. All right, we'll go on here. We'll, like I said, we're going to go to some 2-0 teams. There's a couple of those matchups in this weekend. And we'll start with the NFC West 2-0. There's 3 2-0 teams in the NFC West. And most likely one or maybe one might come out there still undefeated. So this could very well be the battle for first place here. The Cardinals are off to a surprising 2-0 start. Not really expecting much from them, but hey, Kyler Murray's been throwing the ball well from what I've been told. I mean, I haven't really watched a lot of their games, but we'll see what they see out of it. The 49ers did not won last week without Brock Purdy and without George Kittle, and once again, they will not have either of them in the lineup. In fact, Brock Purdy is the emergency third quarterback. He will not start. He will be the third quarterback in this matchup. Like I said, critical matchup for both of these two teams. It's the home opener for the home of Super Bowl 60. So, like I said, think about that as this matchup goes on. If you see any Super Bowl 60 things there, but a critical matchup here, potentially for first place on the line here, give or take. Go ahead.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, Arizona's off to a nice start, but who have they played? The Saints, right? And who else?
Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina. I mean, come
Yeah,
on, man.
I know. You beat who you have on your schedule. Yeah, it's not the Eagles or the Ravens. I get it, but you play who you play on the schedule.
Yeah, well, that's where the old timers, Ken, for example, he's always like, "Oh, you are what your record says you are," but no, that's not true, man. That's not how it works. Yeah, that might on paper, sure, but just because you're 2-0 doesn't mean you're a good team. Okay, they're not a good team. Now I will say Kyler Murray does play the 49ers tough, so they do have that going for them. But on the other side, San Francisco has a healthy Christian McCaffrey, and that does not typically turn out well for Arizona because in 7 games against Arizona, Christian McCaffrey averages 145 yards, scrimmage yards, and 10 total touchdowns. You know, um, and then Mac Jones, he's not some great quarterback, but he showed last week he's competent, solid player. And it's not like the Niners had some great matchup either, but 279 yards, 3 touchdown passes. Um, Obviously, we already know Kyle Shanahan and that system. It makes quarterbacks look better than they actually are. So, it's doing a little something for Mac Jones out there. But bottom line, Christian McCaffrey's going to go off. Arizona's got no chance. 49ers final score 33-23.
Yeah, if this is going to be a Christian McCaffrey game, they better be careful of how many carries they give him. I mean, you talked about why carries matter in a matchup, but obviously when you look at it, when you look at when you look at the when you look at these two teams, they both are where they're at, basically because of who they played. And they haven't played anybody of significance. I mean, obviously, you know, both of them have, both of them have wins against the Saints. Big deal. 49ers beat Seattle in a tough matchup. We'll give them some credit there, but neither of them are off to an impressive 2-0 start. Let's just get that right. They're not off to an impressive, 2-0 start. But like I said, somebody's got to go 3-0 here unless they tie, and I'm not picking a tie here. We're going to have. I know you'd never pick ties, but I might have to eventually. Not this game, but we'll see if Christian McCaffrey can pull it out. But you gotta hope that you want to save him if you really want to make a run, because if we've seen what the Eagles are trying to do with Saquon, not give him as many carries, and that's the thing you gotta do with Christian, because if you don't, you're going to put him in the ground, and he's not going to be healthy, because we've known about Christian his entire NFL career. He's had maybe 2 or 3 healthy seasons out of what, 7. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Ah, all right. All right, you there?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost you there for a second. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I had my tablet sitting in the sun. I think it overheated, kicked me off.
Uh-oh. But anyway, like I said, but give give me the 49ers. Not like I'm going to be happy about it. Give me the 49ers and the final score 27-20.
Okay.
All right. Well, Aaron Rodgers, like I said, yeah, let's go to more positive news. Aaron Rodgers last week did not have a great home debut. Steelers loss, and already what Kwame predicts is what's going on with him and Mike Tomlin might be heading for not so good pleasures. But we'll see if their relationship will stay on top as they play in Foxborough. It's not the old battles between Roethlisberger and Brady that was one sided, and Brady normally won those battles pretty comfortably. But hey, whatever. Steelers and Patriots combined 12 Lombardi trophies. Neither of them are anywhere close to getting the 13th out of this group, but interesting matchup. Interesting matchup. Should be a fun matchup. Hopefully maybe the game of at 1 o'clock that could tell you something. But obviously New England coming off their first win of the year. Great matchup here. Go ahead.
All right, yeah. This one, I mean, yeah. I'm not even gonna get too much into this. I know Ken's a Steelers fan, but he's not on this call. Um, yeah, the Aaron Rodgers looked good for one game, but came back down to earth last week. New England, they're not a great team. This is two teams that neither of these teams are playoff caliber teams. Let's be real. But I did like what I saw out of Drake May last week. So I think he's going to continue with um, that level of play. So, and meanwhile, I think Aaron Rodgers, what we saw last week, is more what we're going to see from him this season. So, yeah, I'm going with the guy that I think is the better quarterback more at this point. So, New England, and it's in New England too. So, New England with the win. I'll say 24-17.
Well, like I told you before, New England will be one of the fun bad teams this year. They'll make it interesting because of Mike Vrabel. He'll get a lot out of that team. But like I said, I mean these are two scrubby teams that are going to try and get their act together here. See what we can come up with here. It'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see what these two go at it here. I mean, but obviously, like I said, you know, New England, they're coming off a big win last week, or at least a win that they didn't expect, beating the Dolphins. But like I said, these are two teams that we really don't know much about for a while. I mean, Aaron Rodgers could still turn back the clock and have a big game, but we know he's not. He's past his prime, and this is his last year, give or take. When you look at the Patriots, it's obvious that, like I said, Drake May, he's going to get better, and we'll see what happens. But like I said, it's going to be interesting to see these two go at it. But like I said, I mean, it's going to be a scruffy game, but I'm going to go with the veteran team, the second oldest team on the roster. As much as I don't like Rodgers, but Steelers, I have respect for, or at least Mike Tomlin in that perspective. So I'm gonna go with the Steelers in the final score, 26-24.
Okay.
All right, our two picks for the AFC West will go ahead it here on Sunday, and obviously you're looking at, I picked the Broncos and you picked the Chargers, and the Chargers look pretty decent so far. Have 2 wins already in this division. Gave the Chiefs that impressive win there. Helped themselves on that Friday on YouTube, and then they beat the Raiders in the last game of Week 2 on a Monday night. So should be interesting to see what these two teams go at it here. I mean, but do I have faith in the Broncos? I don't know, but I have some I have some doubts too. So interesting to see what these two teams will do here. But your Chargers, my Broncos, AFC West picks go at it in their first of two. Go ahead.
Yeah, in reality, both teams have looked good overall to start the season. Denver blew that game last week. They really should have won that. But up until that point, they were looking pretty solid. But the Chargers, yeah, they're off to 2-0 start, looking to get their first 3-0 start since 2002. So yeah, it's been a while, but they're playing really well. More so the passing game, the run, they haven't gotten the run game going. They used a first round pick on a running back also in Marion Hampton, and he hasn't been able to get much going on yet. And a lot of people are saying it's the blocking is more the issue than anything. They're saying the offensive line is like really good again as pass blocking, but against the run, they've been really bad. And the running backs just don't seem to have a lot of holes to hit. So, they've been winning passing the ball, which is something you don't necessarily expect from a Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh offense, but they got Justin Herbert back there. Meanwhile, Denver, they're a good team, man. They're a good team. They'll be hanging around. They blew that game last week. They're still good. They still have a tough defense. They still have a young quarterback. They still got Sean Payton. I mean, they'll be hanging in there. There's a good chance they make the playoffs. They're still going to be hanging around for the division. But if they lose this game, that means they'll be basically 3 games out of first place in the division because they'll be 2 games back, and the Chargers would own the tiebreaker over them. So that wouldn't look good. The Chargers could really get off to a huge start because they also at worst are 3 going to be, if they were to win this one, would be 3 games ahead of the Chiefs because the Chiefs would be 2 games back and have already lost to the Chargers also. So they got a big opportunity here, and I think they're going to take advantage. It's in LA. I would expect these 2 teams to split the series this year, but I'm going to go with the home team here, and I think the Chargers get off the big start for the division, man. 3-0, up 3 games at least on both the 2 best team. Well, I shouldn't say the 2 best teams, but their 2 biggest teams that are competition. But yeah, Chargers win. Final score, I'm going to say 29-27.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I mean, like I said, unlike you, I'm not impressed with the Broncos. They barely beat Tennessee a couple weeks ago to start the season, and then, of course, they blew it against the Colts. I'm not going to mention his name, But obviously, like I said, it is odd that a team would start their first 3 games against division opponents. That is odd the way the schedule worked. But give the NFL a lot of credit because if you can win all 3 of those games, then you already have a foot ahead of everybody else, and you have to give the Chargers a lot of credit and Jim Harbaugh. But also, I have to also give credit to Jim Harbaugh because, as you know, and I've mentioned it last week, especially last week's show, and I might have mentioned it on this week's show. I can't remember. Justin Herbert was used as a game manager last year. 23 touchdown passes. We know he's capable of throwing 38, 40 touchdowns. And I think that he's let him get loose this year because if you let him be a game manager and you allow the running game and everything else, that's not his strength. When you have uh, ah, like I say, he's out there in that sun with the engine not running. It's nothing I'm doing. I ain't do nothing. But anyway, like I said, I'm not been impressed with my pick this year with Denver. I mean, they have to do a little better than what they have. You know, this should be an interesting game though. Out there in out there in down there in LA. I mean, out there in Inglewood. So it should be an interesting matchup. But they gotta do better. Oh, you're there again.
Yeah, can you hear me? I don't know. I'm
Yeah, I
having
hear you.
connection issues over here, so we're gonna have to kind of move on because I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be able to stay on here. What
Yeah,
was he?
well, I'll make this quick. I'll make this quick. I mean, do I have do I hope that the Broncos could turn this around? Hopefully, but I don't know about this week because this is in LA. They're off to a strong start, and Justin Herbert looks like the best quarterback right now. So give me the Chargers and the final score 30-24.
Okay, okay.
We don't have many games to look over. We have a few more games left. We'll move to the big Fox game in the 4 o'clock. They have the what you call it, the doubleheader again. Brady's game, the Cowboys and the Bears. I know you're not a fan of either team, but big match, a big reunion game for Matt Evilflus. He returns to Chicago after being let go last Thanksgiving. The Cowboys are off to a respectable start. Played the Eagles tough, survived the Giants, looking to be above 500 for a change. Can the Cowboys can they actually keep this going, or can the Bears actually get off the snide this week? Go ahead.
All right. Well, I mean, you mentioned when I said the Giants defense played really bad last week, that the Cowboys defense played really bad last week, which is true. They did. Um, but one guy who hasn't played well this year out there is Caleb Williams, And this is it, man. If if Russell Wilson can tear up this Dallas defense and that Giants offense, that garbage Giants offense can, if Caleb Williams can't put up at least 30 points on this team, it's there should be a whole lot of panicking going on out there in Chicago, Um, and they're going up against their former coach, Matt Eberflus, who was just canned last year towards the end of the year by Chicago. Um, but Chicago's defense hasn't been good this year, man. And you look at last week against
50
Detroit.
gave up 50 points.
Yeah, 52 points, over 500 yards. Their top cornerback, Jalen Johnson, he's out, I think, for the season, if I remember correctly. Um, he's done. It's not looking good, man. It's not looking good. And Dallas, their offense got going last week after a rough showing week one. Well, I shouldn't even say that week one. That was a weird game. I mean, both teams, the Eagles and Cowboys, were moving the ball like with ease, just open up the game, and then that rainstorm, that thunderstorm, just ruined both offenses. So you know what? I shouldn't say that they got going because they actually were going until that point in week one. So their offense has been pretty good. Um, Going up against that Chicago D, they're dropping 40. The Cowboys, definitely. I think that's easy. Um, I don't know if that would even be considered a bold take. So I know you want me to make some type of bold prediction. I don't know. I'll have to come up with something. Um, but yeah, Cowboys are going to put up 40, and Caleb Williams is going to disappoint again, and people will be panicking out there in Chicago. So, Cowboys, final score, I'm going to say 42. No, that's what they scored last week. I'll give them a couple more. I'll give 44 to, I'll say 20.
When Ben Johnson took the Chicago Bears job, they started panicking.
Hey,
uh,
he was a good coach, man. He came in here with all the fanfare. He's the next big thing, you know.
yeah,
And like
but you,
what I've been saying, what I say back in the preseason, he's a good offensive coordinator. Doesn't necessarily make him a great head coach. And it also, I didn't think I told you, Caleb Williams isn't going to fit the system that he runs because his he runs a lot of timing and precision, and Caleb Williams is the opposite of what he typically runs. So, you know,
yeah. Well, like I said, I'll make this quick. Obviously, it has not gone well for the Bears in the first few weeks. They blew the Monday night game. They should have won, and then last week had no chance against Detroit. Being that they are back home, that does help them. But yeah, the Cowboys, you never know what they're capable of. And for the Cowboys, we know they're not that great a team. Look at their schedule after after week 6 or 7. It's going to be really tough for them. But when you look at Chicago, I mean, am I going to just give up on the season right now? Not yet. I mean, there's snippets of good things. I mean, there's not a lot to say good, but there's snippets. But at the end of the day, this is a matchup that they can win. This is shockingly a matchup they can win. Now, will they? Yeah, we'll see. But obviously, Matt Eberflus coming back here, this is very critical for him to get revenge. He's looking for revenge, obviously. Ben Johnson didn't get his revenge last week in Detroit, so will Eberflus get his here? I say probably not either. I'm going to go and say the Bears pull this off. It's not going to be easy, but if Brady believes this is going to be a good matchup, he wouldn't come here. So I don't know. But I'm going to go 27-24 Bears.
okay.
All right, we're going to go to the Monday night matchup. My other team, the Ravens. This is a critical game, coming off a monster win. But then again, them and the Bills are going to just smoke every team that they see until they see each other again. For Detroit, obviously, it was not good to start the year in Green Bay, but they did bounce back in a monster way against obviously the Bears. Now they go to a place that they last time they played here, they got smoked. Now, I can't say that that will happen again, but then again, this is my Ravens, and they have to give me a win in my pick'em after I sadly Miami decided to show up against the Bills and cover that 12. So go to this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably this and the Eagles game are the two best games of the week. Um, yeah, I mean, Detroit, they uh, they bounced back last week after a bad week one, and like we said again in the um, Chicago thing, they put up 52 points. Jared Goff threw 5 touchdowns. So yeah, they bounced back. And Baltimore though is going to be a tough matchup, man. Um, and it's on Monday night. They're 22-3 in primetime home games under Harbaugh. Lamar Jackson as a starter on Monday night, 9 games, 22 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions. Um, Baltimore's defense has had at least a sack in 57 straight games, which is the longest streak in the NFL. I mean, they're just a good all-around team. The only thing that you can say is I wouldn't say that the rushing game has really gotten going yet this year. They had just 45 rush yards last week against Cleveland. They did run the ball well week one, I guess.
Over
But last week,
200 in week one.
yeah. But last week, against a bad team, you would think they would have. That would be the week you would think they'd run for 200 yards. So they didn't need to, obviously, but still, um, maybe this week it'll be more balanced. Um, but either way, yeah. I mean, just look at history. I know Detroit's a good team, but Baltimore is just as good, if not better. And I mean, they're at home, prime time. It typically doesn't work out well for the opposing team. So I'm going Baltimore with a final score of 34-26.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting matchup. Like I said, my Ravens they've had it they've had interesting to start the season. Absolutely dominated the Browns, no surprise, but blew a game against the Browns. I meant against the Bills that they should have won, and obviously that hurt them because it looks like they're going to have to go back there in January in the AFC Championship. Because right now, if you look at the AFC, and I'm sure you've seen these two Sundays, and you got a good read. There ain't nobody beating the Bills or the Ravens. I don't see anybody. I mean, they're just gonna blow by everybody. And I know Detroit is a decent team. I get it. Obviously, they won 15 games last year. Should have been at least in the NFC Championship game hosting it. But it's going to be difficult to think that they're going to do that again this year. They're more of a wild card team. We've seen how great Green Bay has looked the first 2 weeks. They know very well because they got their ass whipped by them, and they're going to get their ass whipped here. I just don't see where Jared Goff is even going to hang with what this because one thing you know, and you watch a lot of Ravens games like I do, the Ravens are a very fast paced offense. They don't fool around here. They're going to go up and down the field, and Detroit's not built that way. They're built methodically, and we saw that they methodically beat the Bears, but here they're not going to have anything for that speed, and I just see the Ravens winning pretty comfortably. I do. So give me the Ravens, and the final score. Ravens are also the highest scoring team in the league, even though the Detroit put 50. The Ravens average the most points right now. So give me the Ravens in the final score of 40-20.
Okay. Okay.
All right, my game of the week. America's game of the week right now was what was that? They actually went with the Chiefs and the Giants just for the sake of situation. But I don't know. But anyway, the Eagles are home. Critical matchup because one, I don't know. Well, it's a violation for one that this is a 1 o'clock game and not a late game. But give a lot of credit to whatever. They are playing the Rams, who gave them a tough battle in the playoffs in January. But also, Saquon had one of the greatest offensive games in NFL history by one player against a team in two matchups, over 500 purpose yards, over 200 yards rushing in one of those games. Obviously, there's a lot to look into. The Rams are off to a decent start. They're 2-0. They've looked good defensively. They're coming off a big win last week. The Eagles have done their business, but they're once again being scrutinized for that tush push. The tush push again is under scrutiny, and the NFL has been told allegedly by refs. They're telling the refs you have to call it accordingly, potentially using it as a false start if they see something they don't like. So the tush push will be under review. It will be used tomorrow, but it may not go the Eagles' way if the refs want to play that game. But will they need to use it? They probably will. But critical matchup here. Two teams that might see each other again later on. Go ahead.
Yeah, this will be a good one, man. I mean, we saw them play in the playoffs last year, and the Rams were the only team in the playoffs that actually hung in there with the Eagles. They actually had a chance to win that game. Um, and that was in the snow. You know, you don't typically expect a warm weather team from California or Florida or anything to go into like a cold weather snow game and actually play well. So, this week it'll be more normal conditions for them. Um, you could be looking at this as a potential revenge game too, but I don't really, not really all into that. Um, but yeah, no, yeah, like you said, they are. There's a lot of stuff going around the internet where the Eagles lining up off sides on the tush push. Looks like it. Um, so I'm sure that's going to be looked at. So the Eagles are going to have to adjust. They're going to have to actually. Hey, I'm not against it. I mean, there's no reason why you should be allowed. They should be allowed to line up off sides, and everyone else isn't. You have to play within the rules. That's it. That's it. So I'm sure they've been practicing that this week to make sure that they're doing everything right. Because I'm sure if they do line up wrong, it will get called this week. Um, and then the other thing is the main thing is the Eagles need to get the passing game going a little bit. I know they haven't needed to yet, but I mean we gotta see a little bit more out of the passing game. Um, Obviously Jalen Hurts hasn't really what he threw for last week, like 100 some yards. I don't even know. Not even
101 yards.
yeah, barely 100 yards. I mean, it's fine. They won the game against the Chiefs. That's all that they needed to do. But I would like to see more out of that. More explosive plays. They're saying Dallas Goedert's going to play this week for what that's worth. Um, but yeah, we need to see more out of the two big receivers that are getting paid a lot of money. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith need to start making some plays, and Jalen Hurts needs to get them the ball. And the Eagles have to actually call some passing plays. Now, one thing I've heard this week was the offensive coordinators talking about, oh, we're going to have more design quarterback runs and stuff. Dude, I don't like that. I don't like that, man. I said that a lot over the last few years. I don't want to have Jalen Hurts out there running too many designed plays. He's gonna make plays with his legs to begin with, and you know, the more times you just have him running around, the more you're opening him up to getting injured. And we can't afford that. So I'm not a big fan of that. I'd like to see him get the passing game going, but either way, this one's going to be tight, man. This one's going to be tight. This could come down to the final drive, who has the ball last. Um, and both defenses are pretty good too. So, I mean, this could go either way, man. I'm gonna say it's in Philly, and I'll pick the Eagles, man. For some reason, I think the Rams might win this game, but I'm gonna stick with the Eagles. Call me a homer. Um,
We're all homers.
yeah. So I'm gonna say 27-24 Eagles.
Well, like I said, I've been on the fence for a while. I mean, like I said, the Rams are obviously a team that they're off to a strong start. They know how to play this team. We saw the playoff game in January, even with the weather being the way it was. The Rams had no fear, and Stafford played a very comfortable game. Basically, it was Jalen Carter that won the game at the end. He doesn't come up with that big hit and makes after all wobbly and making bad throws. The Rams probably steal one, and we're not. And we people will, and Hurts is looked at differently, and Sirianni's obviously you don't like him to begin with, but he's looked at differently. So, like I said, we got bailed out big time thanks to Jalen Carter, and that's something to think about. That's kind of what makes us a little upset here because of what happened with the Cowboys. If that happened in that scenario, this is a much different scenario. We're in a much different situation, but thankfully it didn't. Everything worked out, and Eagles are doing pretty well, but the Rams are also doing well. And this is going to be interesting because, like you said, that was 30 degrees, 32 degrees with snow. Sunday's temperature about 75 degrees, right in the Rams home situation. So weather's not going to be a factor. It's basically can the Eagles put things together? Can Saquon have a game like he's had the last two times he's faced them? I say no, because it's going to be tougher to run the ball and all that. So, I mean, he'll run the ball and he'll run it decently, but the problem is, and I'll give you a little bit of this, is that I don't like the fact that Jalen is taking more rushing attempts than Saquon. I think that's a violation, and I think that could be troublesome down the road. We know Jalen likes to run, but he cannot be leading the league in rushing, leading the team in rushing yards. So that tells you that the line is Landon Dickerson even healthy enough? We don't even know if he's even fully healthy. So, and then of course Goddard's hurt all the time. He didn't play last week, so whatever. But this should be an interesting matchup. It should be tight nip. I've been kind of back and forth in this, but I'm going to go with Philly here. I think the Eagles will win this matchup. The game is at the link, so I think that they know that the the Rams are tough, but I think the Eagles are going to pull this off, and because they have a tough matchup next week in an environment that we've already talked about on this show. So Eagles need to win. This is a must win because of what could be next week. So the Eagles win. Tough matchup. Final score 30-27.
Okay.
All right. So this is my game of the week, by the way, just because I think it is going to be a decent battle between two playoff teams from a year ago. But so your bold prediction for this week, I'll give you some of the others. Mine was Carson Wentz will be starting these next 3 weeks for JJ McCarthy. He'll win one of them. That seems like a layup. That's kind of dumb. I got better ones coming, but that's all I thought about. Kwame has the Giants winning this weekend, so that's not a layup, but that's what he thought of. And John went individually here. He thinks that Jalen Hurts will throw for 3 touchdowns on Sunday. That's his one this week. So what's yours?
Um, well, I don't know, man. I guess would this count as a bold prediction? What if I say Dak Prescott throws for over 400 yards?
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, I don't know.
Will it
It's bold.
happen? Probably not, but it's possible.
Yeah.
We know he's capable of doing it. I don't even know who he threw last week. He had to throw a lot last week because that was a shootout, especially in that fourth quarter. So
Yeah.
I'll give you that. I
All
know
right. All right.
it's still we're still learning. It's still something new, but it's you're starting to give me a little bit of respect for it. I know you're not where you want to be and really on point, but like I said, the more we get into these games, the more you'll have more ideas. You'll have some good ideas, and like I said, the points will start to come through. Like I said, if your prediction comes right, somebody's getting points, and even if you don't, if one of y'all gets it right, if the other coach gets fired, you still get 5 points for it because you got that prediction.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I
still a
mean, if
prediction.
you're keeping it with just bold predictions, then it would make sense to me. Because bold prediction to me means it's got less than, I don't know, 35% chance of happening versus just saying, oh, well, hey, the 49ers are going to beat the Cardinals or something, something like that.
Yeah,
That
I
doesn't
understand
really
that. I
mean
understand
much.
that. But here we just want to see if we can get deep into the situation. If we can get deeper into it. Like, yeah, we can make layups and that's easy. That's easy. But like I said, the ones with the fire with y'all might not be that far off here. And if y'all both get it, y'all going to get points for it. Now the goal is to get 10, not 5, but both will get compensated for it. But we'll see what
Yeah.
happens here. We'll see what happens here. But that's all we have for this episode. Like I said, hopefully you'll be here on Wednesday, barring any setbacks for our Eagles, obviously our Eagles show. And then we'll go into the regular show. Justin, uh, John's friend, will be the special guest this week. Simeon did a very, very good job. Hopefully you'll get to meet him in person, and also hopefully he'll come back on the show is in a situation like last week again in the future. But he did a very good job for us in his first outing with the Sharks. And then I'm not saying we're sharks, but we don't bite either. But whatever. But next week Justin will be on the look back, and we'll see what he's got, and we may have some news that I might need from him, but we'll see to that. But that's all we have for this week. Enjoy the games, and like I said, the Eagles hopefully will start 3-0. That would shockingly, no, it wouldn't be the first time it's happened in this era. It happened in 2022, but we'll see what happens. But interesting week. I said interesting week, week 3, and still warm out here and whatever. So that's it. I'm gonna take it out with the music and see y'all next Saturday for this.
Yeah, man. Hey, yeah, your music, I should have mentioned at the beginning, that's not coming through.
We'll fix it next week, or I'll get on chat for it. I'll get on Kwame for it
Yeah.
because we can put that up and we'll put this up.